4. The tallest of the buildings you can see is a white building. It's first Canadian place and it's owned by the Bank of Montreal. It stands at 72 floors high and that makes it the tallest building in the whole of Canada. Just in front of it is the Dominion Bank. You'll see 2 black towers. There's actually 4 towers there, but it looks like there's only 2 from here. And at the top of these towers is a very famous restaurant called Canoe, where you can try some interesting Canadian dishes like caribou. So if you're interested in food and you want to try something that's very Canadian and a little bit different, that might be a good place to go. They're only open Monday to Friday, catering to the business crowd, i.e. those who can afford to eat caribou on a daily basis, but it will be worth checking out once in a while. Just to the right of those black towers, you'll see what looks like a golden building. That's the Royal Bank, and it's not an optical illusion. They've actually insulated the building by covering the whole thing with a very thin layer of 24-carat gold. The building has all windows. It's got the most amount of windows of any building in the world, of 14,000. That's why they need such insulation. They also just want to show off a little bit by having a golden building, because they aren't as tall as the other ones around it. Just nestled in front of the black towers, you'll be able to see the green roof peeking through the Royal York Hotel. Now it is dwarfed these days by skyscrapers, but when it was built in 1929, it was the tallest building in the entire British Empire. It was also the first building in Canada to have elevators. And when it was built, it was actually at the waterfront. But the water at this time was only 5 foot deep here, and that was nowhere near deep enough to build a harbour or a port. So the City of Toronto have actually artificially extended the land out to where it is today, which means that all the buildings that you see here at the waterfront are actually built on artificial, man-made, reclaimed land. And these black towers I mentioned of the Dominion Bank made the headlines in 1993 for all the wrong reasons. It was the scene of quite a tragic incident when a lawyer decided he would demonstrate to a group of visiting law students just how strong the windows in the building were. I don't know why he did this, but he did. So we might admire his bravery, but it might be more appropriate to marvel at his stupidity because his calculations were in fact wrong. The glass wasn't strong enough to support his weight, and so this unfortunate individual fell 24 floors to his death. But luckily, the glass in the nearby CN Tower is an awful lot stronger. If you visit there and you stand on the glass floor, you can feel quite safe indeed because it's been reinforced to hold a weight of 40 elephants, so most of us should be okay. The CN Tower was originally called the Canadian National Tower after the railway company that built it. Although it is now one of our main tourist attractions, it's interesting to note that its origins were purely practical. And there was a big construction boom here in the 1960s that transformed the skyline into one that was from one that was quite low to the ground with low buildings, to one that was now dotted with skyscrapers. And this was quite beautiful and striking, but it did cause havoc with communication problems. Radio signals couldn't get through these new tall buildings, so they needed to build a giant antennae. And at 553 feet, the CN Tower solved these communication problems with rings of spare, but it also was a signal to the rest of the world of what a strong economic power Toronto was becoming. CN Tower was the world's tallest freestanding structure for 31 years, but we were just beaten last year by the Tower of Dubai, so we are very sad about that, but it is still the tallest tower in North America, and it still does give some great views over the city. And if you want to eat at a restaurant at the top of the CN Tower, it's called 360. This will give you free admission to view the CN Tower, but rest assured it will be quite pricey as well. So if you look to the right-hand side of the boat, you'll notice that the east area of the harbour here is almost entirely industrial. This is the Port of Toronto. We only rate a very modest 40 seconds in Canada for the volume of goods shipped in and out, so we're not as busy as places like Halifax, but we do a steady business here. And the main industry here is sugarcane production. That big, huge white factory we see over here is the Red Hat Sugar Refinery. We're very proud of this factory here because it's 100% non-polluting. They're so proud, in fact, we've even built a little museum here dedicated to the very, very exciting world of sugarcane production. If that's something that excites you, then that's the place to go. I'll be giving it a miss, but never mind. If you look straight ahead of the boat, you'll be able to see a plane just coming into land, and we should be able to get a sense of just how close it does come to the water here, and why it'll be so dangerous to be in that area as the boat comes in. Now, if you scan the skyline, you can't help but notice the amount of condominiums here. There's been a real condo boom in the last 10 years or so, but some of them were built earlier, as far back as the 1960s, when this whole area was entirely industrial. Now, people thought that these original developers were crazy, that no one would ever want to live in downtown Toronto as it was industrial. But of course, he turned out to be quite a shrewd businessman because now property prices in the area have skyrocketed and it's a very desirable place to live. So no doubt that man is now a very rich man, probably cruising around in one of the amazing yachts you've seen today. The one straight ahead of us, the Blue Moon, you might have seen it earlier, has been in town for a couple of days now. No one is quite sure who owns it. It's a little bit of a mystery. But if anyone finds out who owns it, please tell me because I'd like to make friends with them. It's going to be worth about 25 million, possibly more. And to run it for 1 hour in fuel costs cost $1,000. You can imagine the kind of money we're talking about here. Now, for all the buildings that are very beautiful here in Toronto, we have to admit there are some that aren't quite as beautiful. Indeed, a few years ago, Now magazine ran a special. They got together a group of esteemed architectural experts, and they all voted on Toronto's top 10 ugliest buildings. So, if you want to see the buildings that came top of the ugly list, you can look straight ahead there, right in front of the CN Tower. You'll see 3 big, disgusting brown towers, 2 tall followed by 1 short. And these are nicknamed the 3 Ugly Sisters. It's not hard to see why, because when they were built in the 1960s, instead of being built to face the beautiful waterfront here, they were actually built facing each other. So the majority of these rooms, none of them have balconies, and most of them have a view not of the water or the city, but just of the view of the mirror image of your own ugly brown building staring back at you. The best thing about these buildings is that if you ever want to see them again for some reason, take a photograph of them now, because 9 times out of 10, if you look at a postcard or any other kind of promotional picture of Toronto, these ugly sisters, they'll be airbrushed out. Straight ahead you'll see a huge beige building. It's beige and green, the top 4 floors are green. This is the Queen's Quay Terminal Mall building, and believe it or not, it used to be a giant refrigerator. It served the ships that would come into the harbour here with perishable goods on board that needed somewhere to store their goods before they were shipped away. It's now been transformed into a shopping mall on the first floor, and the middle floors are offices, with some of the most expensive condominiums in Toronto at the very top, where the elite of the city lives. Just to the left of it, you'll see a little red brick building. It's signposted the power plant, and that's exactly what it was. It used to be the generator for the giant refrigerator. But as it's no longer necessary for that function, instead of tearing it down, what the City of Toronto have quite commendably done is turned it into a lovely art gallery, which is free for all of us to visit. Now, if you feel like going for a swim in the harbour here, I'd advise against it. For one thing, it's illegal. The police will pick you up, fine you. They could even keep you in a holding cell for up to 2 days. I don't know if this actually happens, but it's in their power to do it. If you do want to go for a swim, I'd recommend not trying it here. Go to the island, or else if you just want to enjoy the water from a distance, you can go to our new artificial beach over there, marked by those yellow umbrellas. Give you the sense of being at the beach, even though you're in the middle of a city. It's quite strange, but it's nice. So this whole area that we're just about to dock at is operated by the Harbourfront Centre. They're a non-profit organisation that promotes arts and culture. You'll see a lot of things happening here, especially over the summer, concerts. The best thing about them is that they're mostly free. And they also have a really cool international marketplace where you can pick up something really interesting. Now, what some people don't realise is that Toronto is also known as Hollywood North, because a lot of the films that are set to be set in New York are actually filmed here in Toronto. Not because we think of ourselves as a kind of second-rate New York, it's just because it's cheaper to close down our major roadways and waterways than it would be to do so in New York. Some big films that have been filmed here that you might recognise are the X-Men trilogy, both Hulk movies, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, Billy Madison, and very many more. So the next time you see a film that's supposedly in New York, keep an eye out to see if you can see anything that might give it away that it's actually Toronto. So now, as we make our final approach to our docking location, I'd ask you to kindly remain in your seats until we have secured the ropes and the boat is in place. On behalf of the captain and the crew here on the Harbour Star, I'd like to thank you very much for coming with us today. I hope you enjoyed your cruise, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your stay here in the city. Thank you very much.